Whitetail Passion.
Hi, I'm Ron Bice. Like a lot of you, I've got a passion for whitetail deer. Ever since I was a small boy, I'd do everything I could just to get a glimpse of the deer in the wild. This is what's led us to producing this video, Whitetail Passion. We'll go on 5 different hunts, and we'll see some pretty nice bucks. Some we'll bring home and some we won't. I guess that's why we call it hunting. Along the way, we'll pick up key information about how you can easily shoot aerial photography of your hunting area. And we'll meet Keith Edberg. Keith is an official scorer for the Pope and Young Club, and he'll show you how to score your own whitetail trophies using their scoring system. We'll also meet Ron Cormier. Ron is one of the country's top bow hunters, having taken 17 whitetails, surpassing the minimum size requirements for the Pope and Young record book. So come along as we head out with a passion in Whitetail Passion.
The white-tailed deer is the most abundant big game animal in North America. Even with the increasing demand on its territory, the whitetail has thrived to record numbers. Deer adapt extremely well as we move in and build houses, factories, and recreation facilities in areas that were once home to many whitetails. One problem with this record population is the car-deer collisions that take place every day throughout the United States. The number of deer that are hit each year is staggering, accounting for millions of dollars in damage. This in turn results in increased insurance premiums, not to mention the human death toll. This is one reason hunting plays a big part in managing the population growth of the whitetail. In 1994, the estimated number of whitetails was over 10 million. In most parts of the United States, the does will have twin fawns in late spring. Considering that approximately 65% of the deer are does, it's not hard to figure why the population has escalated to these record numbers. Hunting is a positive tool in managing the whitetail. It brings in over $1 billion annually for such things as hunting licenses, equipment, clothing, gasoline, food and lodging, as well as other miscellaneous items. We as hunters play a key role in this management process. Let's join Ron Bice as he's set up to hunt the point stand. Ron's hunting a stand he's nicknamed the Point, and did so for a good reason. It's located at the point or mouth of a deep ravine which has steep slopes on each side. The deer tend to funnel around the mouth of the ravine rather than travel directly through it. It's a perfect setup, and it's paid off many times in the past. Ron's reflecting back to a couple of seasons ago when he had an opportunity at a nice forked horn buck. Let's relive this shot. This season, Ron set his sights on a much bigger buck, one for the wall. Let's sit back and watch as his hunt unfolds. It's been over an hour, and Ron notices a nice buck coming in from over the hill. The buck has its attention focused on a doe and fawn that are coming up a trail to Ron's right. In order for Ron to get a quality shot, the buck has to come in front of the stand or around to the left.
Boy's really working that tree over there. I'd like to go over there and look at that rub when he's done. If we kill him, we will. Otherwise, I don't want to go over there and disturb the area. He's a nice 8-pointer, probably about 105, 110 inches.
Let's join Keith Edberg as he picks up where Ron left off in calling all 10 pointers. It's early morning, and the long-awaited hunting light has finally arrived. Keith has used grunt calls and rattling antlers with considerable success. Keith notices a dandy buck 200 yards away, headed in the wrong direction. He's going to attempt to call the buck over to his location. notice the buck on the right edge of the big pine. Anytime you can successfully call in a deer, especially one that can make the book, it's exciting to say the least. Unfortunately, this one didn't give Keith the shot he was looking for. Now let's join Keith as he shares insight on how you can score your own whitetail trophies using both the Boone & Crockett and Pope & Young scoring systems.
Man, that was a beautiful buck, wasn't he? Oh, we had him so close, but he just came on the wrong side of the tree. I'd like to take a few minutes here to show you more successful hunters how to go about scoring your buck. Now, any deer taken under fair chase conditions with a bow and arrow should be considered a trophy. However, the Pope & Young Club has set a standard by which whitetails are judged, and which many bow hunters use as a personal goal in their hunting. The minimum score for a typical whitetail for entry into big game bow hunting records is 125 inches. For non-typicals, it was just recently changed from 150 inches to 155, with a minimum of 1 inch of non-typical antler required. There are 4 areas of measurement included in scoring a whitetail: the inside spread of the beams, the length of the main beams, the tine length, and the mass or circumference of the beams. Now, the first thing I do is I take a sliding ruler and I measure the greatest inside spread perpendicular to the axis of the skull. In this case, this buck has an inside spread of 15 5/8 inches. Next, I measure the beam length by taking a flexible steel cable, start at the base of the antler, and lay it along the outer edge of the beam, right out to the tip of the antler, and mark it with an alligator clip. I then measure this distance with my tape. In this case, it's 22 5/8 inches long. All measurements, by the way, are made in 1/8 inch to the nearest 1/8 inch. Next, I mark the baseline of the tines along the top edge of the beam. And I measure down to this point with my 1/4 inch steel tape. This tine happens to be 5 0/8. Finally, there are 4 circumference measurements recorded for each side. Between the burr and the brow tine are G1, between G1 and G2, between G2 and G3, and between G3 and G4. Now in the case of an 8-pointer like we have here with no G4, the 4 circumference measurement is taken at the halfway point from G3 to the end of the beam. I'm going to measure our 3rd circumference here. In this case it happens to be 3 3/8 inches, and what we're looking for is the smallest circumference. When we're done, we add our totals, we subtract the differences between the sides, which is our symmetry deduction, to arrive at our net typical score. Now in the case of a non-typical, if you've got at least 1 inch of non-typical antler, meaning any antler that projects off of another point or other than the top of the main beam, you can add those back into your total to arrive at your non-typical score. If you're interested in entering your buck in the record books or just having it scored, contact your local archery pro shop to find an official measure in your area. Now this buck happens to score 113 5/8 inches. And no, I didn't get this one either. Good luck and good hunting.
Let's join Pete Carls as he gets close but no cigar. Pete is from rural western Minnesota. As a boy, he started hunting when he was old enough to aim a rifle. Since then, he's hunted all over Canada and the United States, taking several Pope and Young candidates. Today, Pete set up in a white oak grove that has an abundance of acorns as well as buck rubs. From the scouting Pete's done, he knows the bucks are coming to this grove, not only to eat, but to look for receptive does. The rut is a week away, and the action is starting to heat up. Let's watch as Pete settles in for a nice afternoon hunt. Pete spots a shooter coming in from the left. In order for Pete to get the shot he needs, the animal has to be broadside or quartering away. The buck is now quartering toward Pete and is about 30 yards out.
Hey, did you get him? Did you get him? Are you serious?
Let's look at the shot one more time. Sometimes it's destiny to miss a buck, and sometimes it's not. In this case, it was truly destiny for Pete to miss this beautiful animal, as 1 week later, Pete took this incredible buck in the same area. The buck grossed 188 inches and netted 167 3/8. They don't call them Lucky Carls for nothing. Congratulations, Pete.
Aerial photography can be a tremendous tool in figuring out what's over the next hill. Having been associated with the aerial photography business for the last 15 years, it not only taught me how to easily shoot aerial photographs, but it's also taught me the applications, especially in a hunting situation. First thing I do when I get permission to hunt a new piece of property is I'll go to an airport, I'll rent a Cessna 152 or a Cessna 172. This is a high-wing airplane. And with a pilot, it's going to cost me somewhere between $50 and $75 an hour. And you'd be surprised what you can get done in an hour. I'll shoot these photographs with a 35mm camera with a standard 50mm lens. I'll shoot them with an ASA speed film of 100 and a shutter speed of 500 or 1000. I'll set my f-stop on 5.6 and I'll set my focus on infinity. And if I shoot these photographs on a sunny day, I'm going to get a perfect, clear picture every time. In fact, you can even blow them all the way up to a 20x24 in the final process. I'll shoot the first photographs from, say, 1,000 feet. And if I need a telephoto or a wide angle, I'll just let my airplane be my elevation guide. I can get closer or I can get farther away, whatever I need. After I shoot the first initial photographs from all 4 directions at 1,000 feet, then I'll go down to about 500 feet and I'll key in on certain little pockets that I think are essential for me to figure out what's going on. Now in the past, before I had the aerial photography background, I'd do what you guys are probably doing. I'd walk that property. But to be honest with you, it's kind of like the blind leading the blind. And the reason is because you'd come to a ridge and you'd figure, well, that's pretty interesting. I've got bedding areas here and I've got food sources and I've got the trails. But what's over that next hill? Well, I'd have no choice but to walk over to that next hill. Of course, I'd come to another hill and I'd think, geez, what's over that next hill? And so on and so on. By having the aerial photographs ahead of time, I can see all that in advance. The other thing is when I get permission to hunt a piece of property, I might not have permission to hunt the adjoining property, which of course means I can't actually go over to that piece of property and check it out. Aerial photographs have been an absolute essential factor in my success. And it should be in your bag of tricks too. Check it out.
Now let's watch as Ron Cormier encounters the fatal attraction. The Minnesota gun season is underway, which requires all hunters to wear a certain amount of blaze orange hunting clothing. Ron set up between 2 bedding areas rich with choke cherry browse. The does are in feeding while the bucks are looking for an opportunity to locate a willing doe for breeding. The rut is underway and the buck activity is at its peak. Notice the doe at the top of the screen. The buck is on full alert, sensing something isn't quite right. But with the doe still in the area, he takes his attention off the danger and focuses it on her. The buck is looking directly at the doe. Let's look at the shot one more time. If you watch closely, you can see the buck go down.
That was exciting. You saw the way he was chasing that doe. That's what hunting is all about. It's getting out here, watching, seeing what the deer are doing. You know, people often ask us, why do you guys set up where you do? I mean, how do you get into these spots, really, these hot spots where the deer are at? They're in there, they're looking around, they're looking for each other. It's great spots. Well, the reason we're set up where we are here is the cornfields in this area have all been cut. There they lose cover, and they also lose a little bit of food source. So these deer are going to be looking for a place to go for cover and also a little something to eat. These chokecherry leaves are a main food source this time of year. They really enjoy eating them. There's a good nutritional value in chokecherry for these deer. The does come in. The bucks know that the does are going to be in here, so they come in following them just like this one did. He came in looking for that doe. Does and fawns were eating the chokecherries. He came in just doing a little rutting. You know, if you can find yourself a good food source in a thick area, you can set yourself up for a great hunt.
Ron Cormier is one of the country's top bow hunters, having taken 17 whitetails, surpassing the minimum size requirements for the book. Let's join in and listen as Ron Bice talks with Ron to find out some of his secrets that have led him to this incredible accomplishment.
Ron, that was a beautiful buck that you took on the video. But compared to some of the animals that you've taken over the years, I mean, 17 whitetails now surpassing the minimum size requirement for Pope and Young. I mean, that is an absolutely incredible feat. When we're making videos, we've got the camera equipment, we've got the cameraman in there, we've got a second stand, of course, we've got twice the noise, twice the scent. I mean, it's a difficult situation at best. But when you're actually keying in on a trophy whitetail, what are some of the differences that you do compared to, say, the video?
When we go with the camera equipment, we set up on the trails where we're going to have a lot of activity. People have called it a primary trail. There's another trail system out there that people are neglecting, and it's a secondary trail system, and these mature bucks use these and define these secondary trails. What I look for is a distinct little trail that doesn't have as many tracks on it. It usually parallels the primary trails in a little bit thicker stuff. A long time ago, my grandfather told me, if you want to shoot a big buck, you got to go into the thick stuff. They don't like to walk in the open. A good time to find these trails is not 2 weeks before the season starts, but I would suggest going out, you know, in March. In the northern region where we hunt, come March and the snow, once the snow melts, the area of the woods looks just like it does in the fall. You can see the scrapes, you can see the rubs. That's a good time to set up your stands. This activity is going to happen again next year. You just need to have everything set up there.
You do a lot of glassing, Ron. I know that you are a real big advocate of staying out of your hunting area. Try not to leave any scent in there. Explain that a little bit.
Most of these deer are very visible in July. They're in the bachelor groups and they're in velvet, and they're spend a lot of time together. They feel very comfortable. They come out early and they're very visible. You can spend, you can usually see them from a road. You can see them from a hillside. You can watch them. Once they polish, they change a little bit. So now you've done your research in the spring. You've got your stand set up. I've set up quite a few of them on these trails, and glass these deer from a distance. Spend a lot of time watching them, finding out what they're doing. Find a particular buck. He's heading into a certain woodlot. Keep the wind right. Get in there and take your best shot.
If you had an opportunity to share some advice with, say, a younger hunter or somebody that's just coming into the sport, Ron, what might it be?
The most important part of archery is you need to be proficient with the equipment. And in order to do that, you have to get equipment that matches your shooting style and matches your draw length, and arrows that match the bow. Mismatched equipment is very difficult to shoot. The arrows come out funny. You're not able to hit what you're aiming at, and that's very frustrating. And we lose a lot of bow hunters because they just don't have the right equipment. So I would suggest going to a pro shop, getting set up properly. Buy the best bow that you can afford at the time, because I think you'll be happier. You're going to be able to hit what you're aiming at. The second part of that would be in a hunting situation. When you're first out there, don't spend a lot of time passing up quality shots. If an animal offers you a shot, take it. You need to get a few kills under your belt, so when that quality animal does walk by, that wall hanger, as we say, you want to be able to make the shot. It's a very difficult situation. Emotions are running high. It's hard to control yourself when an animal of that caliber walks by. So if you've taken a few deer to that point, I think you have a better chance of making that shot.
Ron, I really appreciate you sharing this information with us. I know that if I apply it and it works half as good for me as it does for you, I'm going to be all set. So I really appreciate you taking the time. Thanks for sitting down with us.
Well, it's my pleasure, Ron.
Let's join Ron Weiss as his search comes to an end with the early morning buck. Ron set up on a natural funnel that joins two very thick bedding areas. The deer are coming from a food source, heading back to bed down. The bucks travel the trails, hoping to encounter a doe in estrus. It's a perfect setup, and Ron's expectations are very high. The doe has picked up on Ron's approach trail to the stand. She's now stomping the ground to alert the other unsuspecting deer and to possibly get a reaction from the perceived danger. While stomping, she's also putting down a scent from the interdigital gland located between her hooves to alert other deer that eventually come by. A newcomer will pick up the scent and also test the situation until they too are completely satisfied that all is okay. It's a good time to sit totally still and hope you pass the test. If you don't pass, you may be in for a long day. Early the next morning, Ron returns to the same stand. He's placed some trails and 307 scent on the trail. The buck activity is very high, and Ron wants to give this stand one more chance before setting up in a different location. Ron will wait 1 hour before taking up the trail.
I put some scent right down here. He stopped to smell it. Complete pass through. Had to have been a double lung. Looks good. Looks real good.
There's not a lot of blood through here. Must have been a high lung. Just little spots and specks. Here we start getting some blood. That is a nice deer. Gosh, that is a beauty. That's a beautiful buck. Look at that sucker. He's bigger than I thought he was. This buck right here, he's not going to make Pope and Young, but what he is going to do is he's going to score about 115, maybe a little bit better. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to mount him. There's no question about it. He's a beautiful animal. He's actually got some size to his body too. I didn't think he was quite this big when I shot him. I really felt that he was probably about 100 inches and maybe 105, but he's bigger than that. He's a beautiful buck. Well, we're going to get him out of here and take him to the taxidermist.
As managers, we owe it to the animal to learn all we can about the equipment we use in pursuit of the whitetail. When we go afield, we must have the ability to make a quick, humane kill. This takes consistent practice with the weapon of choice. When we pull the hammer back or draw our bow, the skill should already be honed to a fine edge. This is not the time to find out if we can hit the deer in the proper place. This is the time to make the quick kill the animal deserves. We need to look at the animal with respect. We need to reflect back at all the enjoyment deer have given us. We've watched the bucks throughout the summer while the antlers were developing. We've watched the fawns in the fields while mother stood guard. We've seen the bachelor groups as they were establishing the pecking order for the annual rut. We love this animal with a passion, yet in the fall we go afield to hunt. We're full of anticipation as we put our skills to the test. We have one goal in mind, to be successful on our quest. It seems to be a double standard, yet we do it and in return satisfy our need to hunt as well as manage the herd. This is the relationship we as hunters have with the whitetail. We are managers of this beautiful animal, and this gives us the responsibility to be the best we can be. Before we go in the field, we must ask ourselves, am I ready to make the shot? One that will hit its mark and make the quick, humane kill? If we can honestly answer this question yes, then we are the kind of hunter the deer deserves. We can be proud in our pursuit, as we are the best that we can be. We are a responsible manager of this beautiful animal, the white-tailed deer. Eagles View's preferred equipment is XI compound bows, Sightmaster bow sights, Predator camouflage, Trailhawk tree stands, Beeman hunter arrows, Scent Shield, UV Killer, and Wildlife Research Trails N307.